So this specifically for FKUI, yeah. So you have two main campuses. When you're studying your first, second, and your third year, you'll be studying in Depok, which is called the Gedung Rumpun Ilmu Kesehatan, in which this building will be from the first, second, and third year students enrolled in Fakultas Kedokteran Gigi, Fakultas Kesehatan Masyarakat, Keperawatan, and also pharmacy. So in this building, you'll work together with the dentistry, uh, yeah, FKM, FEK, and pharmacy. Yeah, I forget the English version, but yeah, you'll work together with other faculties as well. And when you reach your fourth year or your co-assistant period, you'll study in FKUI Salemba, in which it's the campus is designated for clinical students, and you'll start studying there from the seventh semester for regular classes, and the ninth semester for the international class. This is because before going to Salemba, the international students should perform their abroad research. So in their seventh and eighth semester, they're supposed to go to the abroad university, for example, to Australia or to UK, and then on the ninth semester, you'll start studying in FKUI Salemba. So yeah, and then these are the affiliated partner hospitals with FKUI. We have RSCM as our main center of study for the clinical period, which is in Salemba. And then we have RSUB Persahabatan, Jantung Nasional Harapan Kita, Kanker Darmais, Harapan Kita, Fatmawati, Sulianti Saroso, and RSUD Tangerang. So these are the hospitals that you will spend time during your clinical rotations later on, depending on the department that you're going through. And this is basically a picture of the campuses that you'll go to. In the left upper picture, this is the famous Gedung Putih, yeah. So for me as a new student in FKUI, I used to take a lot of photos with this background, because if you see, there's the writings of Fakultas Kedokteran Universitas Indonesia, and as a new student, you're very proud. You don't know how difficult it is actually to go through it, but you're still very proud that you entered FKUI. So you take a lot of photos here. And then on the right upper picture, this is the RSCM. This is one of the entries to RSCM. So yeah. And on the left lower picture, this is a photo of the Rumpun Ilmu Kesehatan building. You might find it odd that they have a lot of, yeah, the structure is very odd. And the reason on why the structure is placed like this is because they mentioned that this is supposed to be shock free. So if Depok is suddenly hit with an earthquake, this building is supposedly, it's supposed not to collapse because of this infrastructure. Yeah. So that's very unique. And on the right lower picture is the newly made RSUI atau Rumah Sakit Universitas Indonesia. It's much more advanced than RSCM, but since the amount of patients is not as much as RSCM, so this is not an education hospital, so this is still a public hospital. So you'll not be spending your clinical rotations in RSUB. So yeah. So how do we actually study, and how are we tested in FKUE? So in FKUE, we have an academic system called modules, in which you will study per department. For example, you'll study about the heart, then you'll have the cardiology module. If you study about the lungs, then you have your respiratory modules, and so on and so forth. And how do we study is that we have normal or public lectures, we'll have discussion sessions in which we'll discuss triggers or cases or patient cases, and then we have practical classes which are very similar to A level practical sessions. We actually performed the Benedict sugar test during one of our practical classes, which I would say is quite simple. Yeah, I mean, you're in university, but then you're studying a material in which you study from high school, so that's very convenient. And then you'll be also be studying anatomy sessions and the basic clinical skills module. The basic clinical skills is basically where you will be learning on how to perform suture atau menjahit, how to puncture, how to perform blood pressure checkups, and etc. etc. And how are the examinations done in FKOE? We have the formative, or what we call the practice test. So before we have an actual exam, the module team or the academic team will give you a sample of practice tests in which it's supposed to give you it's supposed to give you an imagination on how the actual test is going to be, pointers gitu lah. And then you'll have the summative exam, which is the actual examination. And in here in FKUI, we have a rule that in your summative, it cannot be less than 55. If it's less than 55, then you'll have a remedial. It means that you need to retake the test. And if it's less than 40, then then you fail the module. Okay. If it's less than 40, you fail the module and you need to retake the whole module again next year. So yeah, we hope that none of you, hopefully, who goes into FKOE never gets remedial or fails a module. And then we have the integrated practical examination, in which basically that's like the practical test in A level. It's very similar. So yeah. And then we have the anatomy examination and the objective structured clinical examination, or the OSCE. Now, OSCE is a test in which you'll have a case and then you'll be asked to perform a specific examination. For example, please perform a venous puncture. So you just go up in front of the clinician and then you just perform a venous puncture according to the steps that has been provided. So that's yeah. And this is an example of the list of lectures that I went through. And this is from the recent module, which is the special senses module. So that's about the eyes, the ears, and the throat, the nose, etc., etc. I had 19 lectures, which is in a span of which is in a span of 6 weeks. So it's actually quite long. Usually, 19 lectures would last for around 4 weeks only, but since there was Lebaran, so we had to extend the schedule. And the picture on the right top is actually an example of a trigger case, which is about the red eyes or something, if I'm mistaken. And then the picture on the right bottom is about the practical sessions that we have here in FKUE. And it's actually based per department. So, for example, you'll be learning about cells from histology, you'll be learning about physiology, and etc., etc., etc. And this is the schedule in FKUE. So I apologize to Miss Yanti if sometimes I don't really respond in time, and the schedule is very amazing. Yeah. So actually, I just had my practical examination yesterday, and I had my summative examination last Friday. But fortunately, puji syukur, I passed the examination, so I'm able to present today. So yeah. So this is actually the most frequently asked questions. Yeah, is entering UE difficult? So if you observe the slide, I didn't really put anything within the slide other than the phrase is entering UI difficult, and I underlined the term difficult. This is because my opinions about UI, whether it's difficult or easy, should not matter to you, because difficult is a very subjective term. If it's difficult for me, then it might be easy for you. If it's difficult for you, it might be easy for me. So it's a very subjective term. And how do we actually assess whether UI is difficult or not is to see the actual data or the statistics on why is UI difficult or how is it difficult. Now, if we see, Universitas Indonesia is actually ranked first in Indonesia, and it is ranked the 657th according to world ranking, followed by UGM, IPB, and then so on and so forth. And if we see within UI, pendidikan dokter or medicine, they have 3,045 applicants, in 2020. But the only number of students that they accept is 54. So you can imagine the amount of competition that you're having. Okay, so yeah, that's quite a little bit, from the amount of applicants that they accept. And this is for the regular class, but for the international class, it's a bit more. It's less strict and it's more lenient. For example, for talent scouting, you have 183 students, and then okay, 13.1% is the percentage of acceptability for talent scouting, and 13.5% is for the SIMA KKI. Is much higher. It is much higher than the regular class. So that is the main reason on why I actually applied for the international class, because well, it's a bit, there's less competition, so the probability of you going in will be higher as well. So now I'm just going to leave the question to you whether UI is difficult or not. I'm just going to provide you with this information, and I'm just going to let you decide whether UI is actually difficult or not. So yeah. So how do we actually get into UI? My version. So first is that you have to set your priorities straight, which means that you have to know which are the things that are urgent and non-urgent, which are the things that you should do now, and the things that you can actually postpone on doing it. Because UI, the entrance examination, they actually use a national curriculum, which I would personally say is quite different from A levels. So it is okay and it's not shameful for all of you to actually take additional lessons from any lesson place actually regarding the national curriculum, because it's quite different and you need to familiarize yourself with the questions that are being asked during the entrance examination. And second is to study. Of course, this is basically a recipe for you to getting into any university. You need to study, you need to join additional lessons if you need, and you need to work hard. Okay, since UI is a national university in which usually they use the national curriculum. So there's a lot that we need to know about the national curriculum, whether it's from the material being tested and how they are being graded, or the rubrics, like, yeah. And then third is you need to pray routinely, because I mean, I personally did these three steps. You have to believe. I mean, you are competing with 3,000 students and only 54 will be accepted. So yeah, you have to be optimistic. And how I became optimistic is by praying. And I left number 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and so on blank, because I believe that you have your own version on how will you get into UI. So you should find your way. This is my way. I'm just showing you how I got in, but you should find your own way. And I hope that you do. So yeah. And this is a quote that I love very much. And this is what I've been, always rereading whenever I feel down, which is by William Arthur Ward. Study while others are sleeping, work while others are loafing, prepare while others are playing, and dream while others are wishing. Which means that basically you need to work hard for the goal that you would like to achieve. Basically, simply like that. So I guess that's it from me. Thank you for listening. And if you have any other further questions outside of this forum or session, you can just contact me. So thank you.
All right. Thank you very much, Dennis. Is there any question as of now? Yeah, I like your tips about application of university. Yes, it has to be like, depend on them. It is the student that will do everything. Yeah, you can hear too many opinions from James, from Dennis about different universities, different countries, but at the end, you are the one who will do it. So it has to be your choice and your commitment. Uh, Talking about Japan University first, maybe James. So there's no really requirement for students to know basic what do you call Japanese to
No,
join the, not at all, not even like a level one, like.
no, you are not expected to know any Japanese when you apply to any of these universities, especially universities that have international program.
Mhm.
You are not required to unless specified.
But do you need to take the course while there? Will it ease your
No,
daily
there.
life? You can speak
mm,
the language and all the science there. I mean, everything is.
well, the society itself, I think you do need to know some sort of Japanese. The Japanese society in general, they can't really speak English, so you do need some level of daily conversational Japanese to, I guess, to live here. But you can learn that in your uni. Many of them offer basic Japanese courses from level 0 to level 5. So it's not a big problem, I would say.
All right. So now you are already fluent in Japanese, yeah?
not fluent yet, but
Miss Namita's favorite city is Tokyo, so she will visit you soon.
Yeah, Olympics are coming soon, right?
yeah.
I think it's a weird Olympic. It's
No choice.
2021.
Yeah, it's a delayed Olympics.
And then in terms of the major, like, is it how competitive is Waseda compared to? Did you apply to other unis as well last time? Just
I did. I think I applied to the University of Tokyo at Nagoya University, and I got rejected, but I got accepted to Waseda. In terms of competitiveness, it's actually very competitive because Japanese universities are actually very highly rated by people from China and Korea and other neighboring Asian countries. So for good students, top students who couldn't make it in or who didn't make it in the Chinese universities or Korean universities, they go to Japanese universities. So it is actually most of your competition, most of the top 10% of students that you will see, and if you go to Japanese universities, it's mostly Chinese or Korean students.
Is it harder to get into public compared to private?
I would say it's harder because you are competing for less spaces in general. Public universities they have a smaller quota of students than private universities.
Is it only Chinese, Korean who is
Mm,
the international body, or are there more students from
US.
India, US, UK?
I would say that 50% is usually made out of Chinese and Koreans. But there are also a lot of international students. Many people from um, uh, Middle East. There are quite a bit of Indian immigrants in Japan. Also, Southeast Asians are. Um, it's not a lot, but you still see them and you still feel their presence. Yeah, there's a bit of Indonesian as well.
Is it compulsory for you to do internship or because you're taking economics, right? So like maybe like it's internship or what else? I mean, like basically working experience there. I mean, while you're studying.
No, it might depend on the course or the curriculum of the program, but I would say for majority of the university, it is not compulsory for you to have any work experience or any internship experience while you are attending the university.
But when you graduate, are there like they said, the employability is good, but does it mean you get the jobs, or are they giving the jobs only to the Japanese people? How does it work?
You need to be able to speak Japanese. I think that's the big caveat. They don't necessarily give the job to Japanese, but will give the job to people who can speak Japanese fluently. And it is a very big plus if you can speak English and Chinese. So if you can speak Chinese, English, and Japanese fluently, you'll 100% guaranteed to get a very good job here.
Which you can do, right? You can speak Chinese, English, and Japanese.
My Chinese is as primary level of this.
Family.
Didn't you take AS in JC too? No?
I didn't.
Oh, you didn't. Any more question for James?
Okay, can I ask one question to James and one question to Dennis?
Yeah, Dennis later will ask more. So
James, James, you should be graduating soon, yeah, or already graduating?
I am graduating in September this year.
Right. So as following up with Miss Namita's question, with the bachelor degree from Japan, do you think you are able to get jobs like around the world, or is it limited to just Asia, things like that?
I would say that I could apply to. I could use it in many regions internationally because I think Japanese universities are pretty well known. I'm not sure in America, but I know in Europe, Japanese university have good connections with their European partners.
So the university will also help in that regards, or would they not?
They wouldn't, but uh, you might be able to ask your professor for assistance there.
All right. Can't wait to visit Tokyo and meet you again. Last time
Yeah.
the ramen place was good.
Also with Mr. Shu, yeah. they, they had ramen together.
James is actually an Instagrammer or blogger for ramen food, I think, last time.
Yeah, I mean, I post some pictures. That's all.
All right. Now, Dennis, what is
Okay.
the question to Dennis?
All right. Dennis, University of Indonesia was regarded as the best university in Indonesia, the last ranking, right? QS ranking, if I'm not mistaken.
The most recent ranking.
Yes.
The most recent ranking. So,
But maybe ITB will claim that the first also.
yeah, some ITB teacher here, yeah.
Yeah, depend who's talking. yeah.
Right. So, maybe in your opinion, why do you think UE is regarded as the best? What aspects you see that is like really important for your learning there, other than the classes?
Okay, so basically why I think UI is the number one, yeah, because actually UI is the first university in Indonesia. Historically, it's the first university in Indonesia, and initially it was actually a medical faculty. So before it was named Universitas Indonesia, if I'm not mistaken, it's termed Stovia. Itu Universitas Stovia, which is Universitas Jakarta lah dibilangnya. It was a medical faculty in which, because it was the first university built in Indonesia, it grew into the other major faculties that you have, for example, to economy and business. But initially, it was actually from the faculty of medicine. And this is actually an advantage and a great aspect because the apa ya, the growth of medicine in Indonesia actually started from UI because UI is the first university in Indonesia and the first medical faculty in Indonesia, which means that if you see other universities, they are actually built based on UI. So that is actually my main reason on why I selected UI and why I think they are great because they are like the ancestors of medicine in Indonesia.
Right. Just to follow up on that, when you go to overseas, when you see universities, there are a lot of research and labs for medicine, right? And they work together with university in those countries. Is that happening also with Universitas Indonesia? And when a student becomes a student there, do you get a chance to be part of that research team and work in the lab?
Okay, so basically, specifically for the international class, you will be given an opportunity to study abroad. Again, it's either Newcastle University in the UK or Monash or Melbourne in Australia. And what is research actually? That's the main big question, right? Research is basically when you would like to identify something. In simple terms, research is basically when you would like to identify a relationship or a connection between one variable to another variable. And this is when you basically perform it in another university. And since you are joining that university, so you will be performing the research, you will be enrolled to that university and you'll get a degree from that university. For example, from UK, you'll get a master's of research, and from Australia and from Monash or Melbourne, you'll get a basic medical science degree, but bachelor's degree.
Yeah, and do you have that opportunity also in OE itself? Like if you don't go abroad, can you be part of a research team of a certain progress in the OE faculty itself?
Yes, actually, there are quite a few of my friends which actually made up a research group, especially during the COVID. Uh, if I'm mistaken, the name is Go Corona or something like that. It was made by my batch, so it was a very hot and trending topic actually, and a few news highlights. But those are for those who are very, very interested in research, because research is not something simple to do. And I guess you really need to put your efforts in research. But definitely you can perform research even though you're not in your abroad year yet. So you can perform research in Indonesia as well.
All right, thank you.
So for the international students, actually, it's not compulsory, or is it compulsory to do the overseas program?
Now, for the international students, it is compulsory for you to go abroad. This is because the international class had made an agreement to the affiliated universities. So you should and you must go. So yeah.
And you said just now the tuition fee will follow, depend on the university where you go, right?
Yeah, especially in COVID cases, in the COVID duration like this, usually they provide a discount. Like for my year, they provided a 15% discount for Newcastle. So it's from 23,000 pounds, it became around 20,000 pounds, 19 to 20,000 pounds. So yeah.
But did you go to Newcastle?
Hopefully this September.
Oh, all right. Okay, congratulations.
He will, because he's in the top 20, right? Just now you say only the top 20% will go to Newcastle.
But actually, it all depends on the batch, Simis, because the thing is that we have three affiliated universities, kan, and then the academic division will let the batch, the student, decide how will you manage your students. Kayak, how many students will go to Newcastle, how many students will go to Monash and Melbourne. But from time to time, from previous seniors, usually the top 20, but it may change in the future. So yeah.
So Dennis, are you going to take specialist later? What doctor are you gonna do?
This is a very, very common question, yeah. So just yeah, FYI juga for other students, if you graduate from FKUI, you'll not become a specialist. You'll become
Yeah.
dokter umum, which
Yeah.
means that you'll be working in puskesmas, atau mungkin if you're very lucky, then okay lah Siloam, mungkin Medistra. That's if you're very lucky and you have connections, then you can work there. And then if you have graduated from Dr. Umum, then you will take your specialist degree. It can be from various departments, but personally, I'm interested in cardiology or the obstetrics and gynecology. Kandungan.
Okay.
So after you graduate, what step you need to do? I mean, like, can you go straight away to specialist, or have to go ask for a certain number of years, and then what is the things that steps to do that?
So basically, when you go to medicine in general, yeah, not only in UI, in all medical faculties, you'll spend 3 years learning about theories. So you'll learn about anatomy, physiology, about histology, etc., etc. That is 3 years. So you after you graduate from your 3 years, then you'll get your Bachelor of Medicine, and then you'll spend around 2 or 2.5 years in the hospital being a co-assistant to doctors, or what we call as coas. After that, you'll graduate. But before you actually can work in a hospital or in a puskesmas, you need to perform, you need to do internship, in which you will go to a specific place. It could be in Papua, it could be in Maluku. It's highly randomized, and there you need to perform community service for a whole year. And after that, you'll get the certificate, and then you are eligible to work as a doctor already. So you can treat patients and something like that.
So Dennis, how long is the whole process? So 3 years academic.
3 years academic.
You go
and
6 months your research in UK, let's say.
12 months.
So
1
1
year.
year, 1 year research. So 3
1 year.
plus 1, and
Mhm.
then
And then you'll have your co-assistant for 2 years, so that's 6 years. And then you'll have your internship for roughly around 6 to 1 year. So that's
So
around
7 years.
7 years, 6 to 7 years. Yes.
Okay. Does Indonesia have a licensure exam?
Yes.
When
And
do you take the licensure exam?
the license exam is when you are about to end your co-assistant. So when
On
you
the
would
6th year.
on the 6th year, yes, and that is the exam that every medical student is waiting for, because it's quite difficult. They ask questions from all of the departments, and then it will be a written examination and also a a face-to-face examination. So you'll be faced by the head of departments, and then you'll be asked to perform a specific procedure. For example, you asked to perform circumcision in front of the head of the head of surgery, for example, and then you need to do it in the right method and the right steps, and so on and so forth. So
So the
it's quite a
licensure, is it
challenge.
from UI or is it from the government?
For the license, it's from the government. It's from ID, Ikatan
So it's the
Dokter
same exam
Nasional.
for every student. I mean, for UGM or other schools also will have to follow the same exam board.
Yes, they must follow the
Standardized.
same.
7 years, basically. Just for
Yes,
general doctor alone.
just for general doctor alone. Yes.
Dokter umum.
Doctor umum. But what's good about UI is actually their connection with the specialist doctor. So if you would like to go for a specialist, you need a recommendation letter, right? And this is a must for any major or specialist that you would like to go to. And this is something that is very difficult to get because you can't just go up to a doctor and ask for a recommendation letter. You need to get close to him, and then you need to know each other well. And this is, I think, a facility that UI is able to provide as well.
Uh, I have one more question, Danny. Sorry. If you were, I'm sure you have friends from other universities who are doctors. What would you say is the difference between an UI student and an UPH student? Because UPH are those probably they couldn't get into UI, right? Uh, or maybe they wanted UPH because of the internship. There must be. What would you see the main difference between? Do you have friends from other universities who are also taking medicine? Do you have
Yeah,
those?
The same batch last time in Atmajaya, yeah, several, Sevanya. Are you in touch
Angel
with
is
Angel?
sometimes we talk when we meet up, but recently not yet. I think due to COVID, we did not yet really meet up.
Is there? Do you think there's a difference? Like some people like UPH because the internship is so good at Siloam.
We have Edbert. You remember Edbert Wong in
Edward Wong, Daryl, Angel,
our doctor.
Daryl, also, yeah, Daryl.
Daryl,
Daryl in Ukrida, yeah.
Daryl is across our campus.
yeah, he's still taking medicine, miss.
I don't know. How is Daryl, yeah?
I
My
haven't
business
really.
student. Then
He can
shift
be
So
dokter anak, can be dokter anak.
Edbert also. Oh yeah, really, yeah, medicine.
For
Where is Edbert? UPH?
yes,
UPH.
Edward's in Upea.
So is there a difference, you think? Or do you think it's too commercialized, the private ones?
So I think personally, yeah, I don't think there's a major difference because I think each university has their pros and cons.
Right.
If we see UPH, I would say their facilities are much better than UI. Yeah, if you see their laboratories, they're like brand new. I mean, you get what you pay for. Yeah, of course, UPH is much more expensive than UI, but it is very good than the one that you get in UI. But at the same time, I suppose the connections that you get in UI are, let's say, maybe it could be different than the one in UPH. You know, since it is UI, but a major difference, I don't think there's a major difference because again, in medicine, it highly depends on how you work as a student. For example, how much you study, your hard work, because medicine is a major in which what you study is what you apply. You can't suddenly become a doctor one day and you just base it on luck gitu loh. Oh yeah, I hope that today my patients would be simple patients. It doesn't work like that. So you really need to study and you need to work hard. So even though you're from UI or you're from UPH, even though you're given different circumstances, it's again at the end of the day how much you study and how much you work hard for it. So yeah.
Yeah, I think it's true. It depends how you maximizes your your chances. Yeah, maybe but the positive thing is that UI is really highly affiliated with RSCM, in which from all over Indonesia, everyone is referred to, like especially those who cannot afford. Yeah, I mean like this is the national hospital, so all kind of research and cases that happen can take place in RSCM.
But the difficult thing is that it's all difficult cases, miss, because usually the one that is
That's
admitted
why
to
the
SKM,
experts are there, right?
yeah, the experts are usually there. So the doctors you see in Siloam, in Medistra are usually the the main doctors from RSCM, because most of the cases in RSCM are very difficult. It's usually end stage cancer and so on and so forth. They are tough cases.
Thank you very much, Dennis, because yesterday you just had your major test and then the announcement was just last night. And then so he was worried that he will not pass the test. And I'm sure that, it will not happen to any of our students, right? No need to take it.
Amen.
So, very much.
Dennis, many students start with the ambition of, I'm going to take medicine. It's a common thing. Primary, I'm being a doctor. Then over
By the
years,
time in JC1, changed mine already.
but over years, the one who materialize become less and less and less and less. What do you think? What made you determine that I'm going to do it? Like so many people start, but then they change towards the end. They go biochem. They'll take some bioengineering, environmental engineering. How did you know, like, this is just not something just blurt out, I'm taking medicine? How did you know that? Or when did you know that? Did you know that in JC1? Or when did you know?
So basically, when I was in primary, I wanted to become a policeman because I think that is one of the something that all children would like to be. And then in secondary, I would like to become a pilot or an astronaut. But in secondary three, I realized that my physics is not as good as I hope to be. And then in secondary three or secondary four, I decided that biology and chemistry is quite a core strength subject for me because I'm able to do quite well in biology and chemistry. So I don't really research much about medicine. Like if when I was in JC, I didn't research much about medicine. I don't know how do they assess yourself. I just study. So I guess the turning point for me is during secondary three, and I guess the message is that if you research too much about a specific major, especially medicine, considering the fact that it's around 6 to 7 years for you to graduate, it's a horrifying image gitu loh, for you to realize, oh, you're gonna graduate after 6 years, and then it'll just be doctor umum, and then you need to study again until you're a specialist. So there's a lot of years that you need to study. If you have that vision in mind, if you think that if you have that horrible image, then it'll demotivate you. So instead of thinking about that, just think about now. Just think about how you can study and how you can actually do your upcoming test, your upcoming exam. So I guess that's for me. Yes.
So moral of the story is that you can be a doctor when you decide to be a doctor, even later in your life, right? It doesn't have to be starting primary.
Yes, that is correct.
That's good.
Okay, so maybe the last question is, if you want to be a doctor, is it a compulsory for you to study in Indo, or you can do it in overseas and then you take the exam later on?
It is highly recommended for you to study in Indonesia first because you'll get the certificate from the government, right? So you're eligible to perform practice in Indonesia. But it's also common to see that there are a few doctors who's taking specialists from outside. For example, I have a colleague of mine in which his brother is taking BTKV, bedah thorakovaskular, or surgery in Germany. So what you do is that if you actually take medicine outside, you'll need to take a placement test. So itu nama tesnya adalah tes penyesuaian. So in which you'll be tested for medical conditions here in Indonesia. And if you pass the test and you pass the interview, and then you'll go like around 1 or 2 years for introduction to Indonesia's system, and then you can actually work. But that is a very complicated system. So we highly recommend you to study medicine in Indonesia if you're planning to work in Indonesia.
Thank you. So maybe go back to James for the last question. James, since you are in the almost how many months left there, have you started applying to university for job? It has to be.
I have, I've applied several openings, and I'm currently waiting for a reply.
Is it true that in Japan you have to do like a test in order, like a written test kind of assessment?
Yeah, you do. But because of the corona situation, you're now required to do a web test instead. It's basically an aptitude test for if you're applying to psychology test. Yeah.
So the same, yeah. In here also have that kind of test, right?
James, I have one more question for James. Because during your time, many were applying in Hong Kong, your batch, yeah?
Including him, I think.
I did, yeah.
Also him, yeah. Do you, looking back 4 years, do you wish you went to Hong Kong instead? Or are you happy with your decision?
I am very happy with my decision. I think, in hindsight, people think that Hong Kong has better education, but I feel like by coming to Japan and experience the education and the living here and the professors and all that, like I feel like Japan is a bit like underappreciated, like undervalued, but they actually offer some of the best education, I would say.
Who's the other student here? We had one more, right, who went to Japan. Who got
It's
college
Vincent.
also. Yes, how's he doing? Is he also doing
Yeah, he's doing well.
No, not this one.
In
He's-
APU, yeah.
He is in APU, yeah.
Graduating?
He's graduating soon. He's currently interning at some retail company.
We have Kyla also this year
Oh,
going to Japan, but I think APU.
okay.
I think Japan also is teaching you to have very good
Responsibility.
discipline, right, James?
Yeah.
Why?
Cannot be late, right? You are late to exam,
Yeah.
they will
So
cut you
they're
in.
quite strict. They're quite strict on that. Yeah.
Mhm.
I also want to add that Japanese universities does not require you to do a graduation thesis in a non-engineering or non-science program. Yeah, so that's a big plus for me, I think.
Japan has population problems, so James can live there and
Yeah, aging population.
Hopefully.
All right,
Yes.
30.
Yeah. We have another session in 30 minutes time. So maybe thank you very much. Oh, somebody is signing in. Okay. Thank you very much, guys.
You
Wishing to see you again soon in person. Yeah.
You're welcome.
and it is a James. Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you, Miss. You're
Take
welcome.
care.
Dennis, good luck for your
Dennis.
trip.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Nice seeing you. Bye.